Hello and welcome to Leonard Reviews. I'm David, and this is the iBox Nano. This began as a Kickstarter project about a year ago. Had quite a bit of controversy involved because the creators couldn't deliver the product on time. It was bid in November for an April, May release, and I didn't get this until late August, early September. A lot of other people pledged on it for early bird specials back in January of 2015, and they didn't get it until much later either. But it's finally arrived. I've had it for about a month. I've been testing it and printing new items on it, and it's my first 3D printer. At the time, it was 250 bucks. You can actually order it now for about 300 to 350, depending on how much resin or bonus features you want with the product. It's powered by Raspberry Pi. There has been, I think, at least one new version of the Raspberry Pi since this was released, and you can order it from their site and have it installed with all the special software and hardware related to the device. In fact, I think all of the components of this are capable of being ordered separately. There's wireless network, HDMI, a mini USB port for power, and a screen with a whole bunch of UV lights underneath it. Now, it's a very fascinating new design, at least for 3D printers, because it comes with this build plate and a vat. This resin, liquid resin, is poured into the vat. It has this piece FEP theft tape that is kind of like Teflon to make sure it doesn't stick to this, but it needs to stick to this. So you screw it in like so. You'd put this in here evenly along with it. It comes with a little screwdriver, so you can screw all these in, and then you press the button, and it goes all the way down. And it has to touch the build plate, and you actually have to scratch this up, which is very odd. They didn't actually tell us this until I looked up between YouTube pages and their help site, their support forums, that you have to like either use the piece of some sandpaper, or just like scratch it up quite roughly, vigorously, to allow it to stick, kind of like fingerprints. And it goes all the way down. Sometimes it'll take at least an hour before you finally figure out whether your print is going to stick or not. And sometimes it will stick for a while, and then it'll just like slip off. I've watched it like peel straight off and just sit there as a partial build in this vat. I ordered it with the green resin, although it comes in various colors. This is for blue. It also comes in red, yellow, uh, clear. Apparently, clear doesn't really stick that well though, but it's a variety of colors, and you can order them through megajuice.com or from iBox themselves. And it's unlike a lot of other 3D printers that use a spool of filaments, which it can be PLA, ABS, a lot of different formats. In my research for 3D printers, this one, as they say, it is the cheapest and most reasonable, especially for our projects. What we want to do is print tabletop miniatures, like this orc here, and that is like the perfect size. Well, almost. That guy's a little big. Maybe it's better to use the wolf as example. But in a moment, I will get to the actual prints we've made. So these are the ones that they came with. It comes with two gears. This is like the standard print, apparently, if I can get it to focus on them. Or not take a picture. It took a picture. Oh well. Anyways, every print, every printer they send out has these gears as an example print to be able to tell. There's a few holes inside of it. It's kind of hard to tell through this resolution. The first print we actually made ourselves is this supposed to be a woman with her hands on her hips. This hand did not print. The whole arm is just, I don't know why, but it didn't print. Our dad broke off one of her legs, so she's missing an arm and a leg, but you know, it's there. I think the later prints we've made are significantly better. Like this one. This is apparently the print for all examples here. This rook. If you can tell, there's a little staircase climbing up inside of it, and it's rather transparent. If you can see, there's a small crack as well throughout the top. That is not because of the printer. That's because we mishandled it, unfortunately. We were putting it, trying to demonstrate to people and putting it in a plastic bag, and that didn't work out because it got crushed on different things. Here we go. Here we got a little small Groot here. It's kind of hard to tell. Unfortunately, this camera won't focus very well. But it's a bust of Groot. It's one of the more recent prints we made. Most of these are actually available through the main iBox printer site. They if you go in, they have an interface that you log in through with your phone or just any web browser. You just go to the IP address on that web browser and you see the interface. Or you can disconnect the USB here and connect a powered hub along with the wireless adapter and keyboard and mouse, and you can use the HDMI on the back to hook it up to a TV or a monitor and see directly. It's running a custom version of Linux that has all the pre-made software to scale everything to its design. And that's one really thing about it, the way that it makes these prints, it holds them upside down and pulls them up layer by layer, and it can take anywhere from 4 to 6 hours, depending on the size and complexity of the model. And that's why I said earlier that it was like you could take an hour before you can even see whether you could see it properly. But there's this screen right inside here that at least shows you when it's booting and what the IP address is and some other basic information, even if you don't have it hooked up to a TV. And these UV lights shine in certain times, and it shows the layer underneath if we actually could look through it beneath all the resin once you poured it in. It's a really ingenious design, and a lot of people have said that if you could get like a second or third edition of the Nano, something that actually improved on this new experimental design, that it would be significantly better. If you can't tell, I'll just move this out of here. Um, this part, for some reason, cracked on us. Other people have had worse issues. They have like shipped with broken screens, so it can't print if it doesn't have a screen shining the individual layer that it's hardening to make each figure. And that's disappointing. But fortunately, we got a working one, and yeah, it's a pretty neat little device, especially for the price. And if you don't want to invest, if you want to make something bigger, you're gonna have to spend at least $1,000 or more, and spend quite a bit on filament and trying to find models. Thingiverse, a lot of different places have different 3D models, or you can make your own and scale it down. There's a free program called Slicer. It's into 3 instead of an E that they've got a deal with that you can plug in the specific attributes of everything that needs to be printed and get it something working. And in that regard, that was an attempt here. We tried to make a gelatinous cube, but apparently the initial model was too thin and it just kind of falls apart. It's rather shaky there. Statue of Liberty model. Most of these are available directly on the as approved pre-painted figures. Uh, so when you first boot up the device, you can either add your own or list. There's a rather decent. I think it's about 40 or 50 different models. A couple of them are the same because they're just like smaller versions of it if you don't want to use as much resin. And Statue of Liberty. This is probably the most impressive one, the largest one. This T-Rex head, or basically dinosaur head with little teeth inside. And it was kind of interesting. It actually had these little layers I had to take off because it was trying for stability issues. Uh, it would actually have extra thin slices of resin that once I knocked it off, it was fine. It was just to hold it together while it was rising up. And apparently some models just won't print properly because it needs to do that. We've also had the issue of it sticking either not at all or way too much to the build plate, as in this bird model is supposed to be sitting right on top of the stand, but in my attempt to remove it from the build plate, it broke off. So I try to use like a sharp knife to gently go underneath it and like peel it off of here. It's like if I don't scratch it up enough, it won't hold and it won't print. If I scratch it up too much, it sticks way too well to the print, and I might end up cutting myself, like with K9 here. And it's really hard to tell, but there is the actual emblem, the letter K and the 9 is on his side here. Affirmative, Miss Chris. Master. Yeah, that was one of the custom prints that I found and scaled from Thingiverse, and As you can tell, it's kind of a hit or miss in general. I think the only other review I've seen of it this was very negative. That's only because the guy has a lot of experience with other 3D printers, and he's like, well, if you can spend more money, get a bigger one. I would say the same. If you can afford $500 or $1,000, go ahead and get a bigger one that's more a MakerBot or something else. But if you're like me and you're on a significant budget, a small budget, and you just want to try to get something especially small. I mean, if the idea is to create miniatures, to create playing pieces in plastic, then this is definitely a way to go. If you have any comments or suggestions for further reviews or anything else you'd want to see printed from this device, let me know in the comments below. And until next time, happy gaming.